can only make us proud and fill us with hope. Now we're going to talk about the Amazon region. So the next panel is a panel that will be moderated by Marita Koch-Vesser, an environmentalist, and the topic is the Amazon region and the standing forest bioeconomy. It's a great challenge and it's already happening. I'd like to stress that everything that you're seeing on this screen here, Rio Online, or in the screen Rio Online, are initiatives that are already in place. They might not be talked about as much as they should be, but they are in place. And so what we're going to hear now is, well, I'm just waiting for Marita to show up so that we can start asking the panelists of this next panel to join us. So the Amazon, this next panel is on the Amazon region and the standing economy bioeconomy. Where are the presenters? We have Marita Koch-Vesser, who will be our moderator, the president of the Amazonas University, and Carlos Nobre, I can see him there, and we'll have Dr. Thomas Baldauf, who will represent the Ministry for Agriculture, the German Ministry, Virgilio Viana, and Marcelo Bortolini from FINEP. Carlos, I can see you there. Hello. Is everything all right? Now I'm waiting for the others. Thank you very much for being with us. And now the next people, the next ones will probably appear any moment now. Cleynaldo's already here. Marita, Cleynaldo's there. I can see him. Marita, Confesso, well, I'm waiting for her. What about Virgilio? Dr. Thomas Balda, thank you very much for being with us to talk about Amazonas. Now we need Marita to turn on her camera. Cleynaldo, the university president. Now we have there Virgilio, and hello, good morning, everyone. Great people. We've got great people here. Thank you. Good morning. Now I'm going to give the floor to our moderator. Right now, I have the honor of seeing her here, and now we're missing our friend Bortolini. Good morning, everyone. Marita, you'll be today's moderator, and I'm going to ask you to do something difficult. Can you be very, very strict in controlling the time and keeping tabs of the time? With pleasure, we'll have a panel on the Amazon region and the standing forest bioeconomy. It really is an honor to be here with you and with such an excellent group. I'd like to say, Bia, that following after this, this session comes after excellent talks yesterday and today. So we'll be, first of all, talking about the Rainforest Business School, and this will be a small talk given by myself, Carlos Nobre, and Cleynaldo Costa from the UEA, and after that we'll be hearing our friend who is from Germany as well, Thomas Baldauf, and then Virgilio Viana, who has a lot of experience at the Fundação Amazônia Sustentável, and then we'll have Marcelo Bortolini. Now, I would like to start. We're going to have three people talking about the Rainforest Business School. I will be making a brief introduction, I promise, and I would like to see my presentation on the screen, please. Please, can we have Marita's presentation on the screen? Thank you. Great. Can you please move the presentation forward? No, can you upload the presentation, please? you're only showing the side slides. We need the actual presentation on the screen. Something seems to be wrong now. It's gone. Let's try again. Just a moment, please. Just a moment, please. No, the previous one, please. Right from the start. Just a moment, please. I'm sorry, we're opening up the presentation.
Agora, muito bem.
Very well. Now, so I'm going to talk about the Rainforest Business School, and I'd like to start by updating, by telling you that we need an update, because this idea of the Rainforest Business School is already in place or exists for a while. And as an introduction, I'd like to give you an update. I will start with the objective. The objective or the goal is not, the aim is not to have a forest business school. In fact, to have a forest business school is very important because there will be more people who, without having more people knowing about this, will never have the new economy that we want, the bioeconomy itself. So a bioeconomy on my slide, it says that a thriving Amazon bioeconomy with standing forests and flowing rivers is and it also talks about a science-based development that benefits local communities. And in the Amazon region, for the most part, the communities still live below the poverty line. If we, according to international definitions. So in 2020, the bioeconomy, and as we saw during the previous presentations, the bioeconomy is gaining traction. And what are the reasons? Well, the reasons are because there is international demand and because of the price levels. I've taken a photograph, the one that you see on the slide. I took it last week at the Den supermarket in Berlin-Wannsee. Now, of course, this was in Germany. 65 grams of acai powder cost 10 euros 99, and guarana, well, similar amount, costs 12 euros 99. So this, what we need is to bring more of this with place more of this amount in the local bioeconomy. The bioeconomy is perhaps, is seen as a high road to sustainable development, an alternative that will stem devastation and irreversible changes, the loss of biodiversity and climate functions. In 2020, we also saw a greater acceptance. It's a growing acceptance of what Carlos Nobre will talk about in a while. Growing acceptance of the path that science allows for unlocking the potential that we have within our biodiversity. And based on research, and other things as well, but based on research, the development of new products and research and new policies that will promote this line of thinking. Now, Sergio Leitão will talk about the fourth point, and it has to do with rethinking the free zone in Manaus, what the future of the free zone will be. Now, thinking about the bioeconomy. Now, to go back to the Rainforest Business School, I think it is increasingly acknowledged that there is great knowledge in amongst the different disciplines, and it emerges as a new economy. In order for the rainforest to grow, it must emerge as a topic, as a discipline. Next slide. Simply to tell you a bit of the history, last year during the Green Rio event, we gave two presentations, Professor Ronaldo and myself, on the concept and the willingness of the University of the State of Amazonas to launch to make real the Rainforest Business School, to deploy it in November 2019. As a result, less than a year ago, there was a conference on the social bioeconomy, and there the Rainforest Social Business School was launched at the University of the State of Manaus. The plan, well, in November, we said that we'd start launching a first course in March 2020. That did not happen. This did not happen. This year was different, and all of you know why. It was the year of COVID, and nevertheless, the University of the State of Amazonas and to a certain point, my home, the UEA and USP, and our program, Amazonia 4.0, carrying on with our work, attempting to find new alternative paths. Next. This is the central slide here in my presentation. It shows that now we have many parts that are already in place, and the UEA, and Professor Ronaldo will talk about this. One, the UEA is preparing the first course that will be in place as from January 2021. We also have a joint activity including Amazon Labs and the Rainforest Business School, together with the simultaneously this year, remotely, we decided to launch a few months ago simultaneously a Rainforest Business School online. And we are gathering everything that we have access to, that we can register, that will be useful for the bioeconomy, or the development of the bioeconomy. I thank Green Rio as well for this, and the Amazonia 4.0 program, because together we are trying to make up that mosaic of past courses, Sebrae courses, GIZ courses, all these courses in different governmental state governmental departments and the Ministry for Agriculture, etc. We're trying to make up a syllabus and in the Rainforest Business School. It's like putting together a mosaic, and we already have many of the mosaic pieces in place. On now, the fourth bubble, the one that's white, is the part that we do not yet have, but that will bring innovations, new ideas, new analysis. We are, but on behalf of Amazonia 4.0, we are putting forward the idea of trying to think of something rather like an Amazonia MIT, an institution that will develop technologies together with Stone School for the Amazon basin, not necessarily just for Brazil, but for the great ecosystem and the countries that are part of it. This, in the future, should feed the Rainforest Business School as a system, both in terms of what happens in the classroom as well as online. I would like to stress, if you look at the background of the slide, you will see that there are many parallel activities that are useful, that are already part of this process. We've heard from Sebrae, we've got all the materials that Embrapa has, and so many other Brazilian research centers, the Ministry for Agriculture, and the regional Amazon Accounts Tribunal, or auditing center, should we say, the GIZ in Germany, the World Bank, the IDB, the UNDP, many private universities, and business schools. And we have two platforms. I am part of Arapiau and also Amazon Investment Coalition. So there is a movement, and that's what I want to show you here in this introduction. This year, there's been a great movement that converges and brings hope. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. In 2021, we aim to bring more strength to this line of partnerships and funding. We're looking for partners, and of course, and urgently, I would say, funding. What would the funding be for? It would be to attend to meet the needs of four, and this is something very specific to the Rainforest Business School and the Rainforest Social Business School. Well, there are different target audiences or groups. So we are thinking specifically about four target groups. One, Amazonian producers, the people that Sebrae attend, and that's what we're going to expect for the first UEA course for the first year and a half. The second group is made up of people who perhaps do not even live in the Amazon region. They're entrepreneurs and business executives who are looking for very specific kinds of training for about certain value chains. They want to hear about case studies and previous, experiences to date, regulatory frameworks, markets. They are looking for a niche and we need executive courses for that kind of client. And we hope to work with the Amazon region business schools in USP and other institutions. The third group are the administrators, people like the congressman who spoke in the previous session, people who define policies and legislation, or economists who analyze the instruments at the governance level. And the fourth target group, the last but not least, will be made up of future generations of students who would like to do an excellent rainforest business program that includes different areas of expertise and that have great thinkers and teachers from different universities across the world and people in science contributing towards the Rainforest Business MBA graduate program. Of course, this will take many years to bring together, but it's very important to educate or train a future business elite in the field. Next. Well, last of all, I would like to emphasize that we're in a hurry. Mario Andrade wrote a beautiful poem about uh, saying, I am in a hurry. Now, I think the idea of using the standing forest in a sustainable way and benefiting the population, the local population, is something that we should do, we should consider is urgent. It mustn't just be part of a small a project, just another project. I ask you, how can we make this grow and make, and how can we achieve the deployment of all this quickly? Thank you very much. That was all. That is what we want as a basis for the Amazon economy in the future. Thank you. And with this, I would already give the floor to Professor Kleinaldo from the UEA, who was extremely loyal and faithful to our um, goal this year. But of course, there were great challenges. He's a doctor, he's a university president, and of course, with COVID in Manaus, the situation was dreadful. I really thank you for your interest and support, continuous support towards the Rainforest Business School.
Good morning. Once more, I'd like to thank Bia for her invitation. Maria Beatriz Costa, Maria da Cockvezer, also, who is fostering our enthusiasm in this collective experience of starting the Rainforest Biosocial Business School, the German Institute, and Marcos Bavarino, Secretary Fernando Schwank. Thank the opportunity for being with Carlos Norvis, Virginia. My greetings to you, Thomas Baldauf from the Ministry of Nutrition and Consumer Protection in Germany, Marcelo Bortonini from FINEP, and thank you once more for the opportunity. Can I ask you to upload my PowerPoint presentation, please? So our topic today, Rainforest Social Business School. It is social because the Yunus Institute kicks in this scenario. So we have a social reach in the forest, keep the forest sustainable, use resources from the forest, but above all, having people thinking as the forest as a living being. And we're talking about 30 million people when you talk about the whole of the illegal Amazon area. So here we deal with Amazon 4.0 and the Rainforest Social Business School. I'd like to thank Marita, Paulo, Saldivia, and Bia, especially Marita and Bia, for your efforts, because you are the ones who invited us. And because of these two people, we are working at the University of the State of Amazon. Today is Amazon is 40% of the area of South America, 7.5 million square kilometers. We're talking about 30 million people in the whole in South America. This has a huge impact when we start to speak from our perspective, which is the largest state in the Brazilian Federation, which is the state of the Amazon. And our university is the largest university. We are present in the 61 localities of the state of the Amazons, as well as the capital. We have 25,000 students in graduation and post-graduation. 62,000 people have graduated in the state of Amazon. The mission is to bring education, higher education, to the whole of the state of the Amazon, with the logistical challenges being such a remote place, and do it with quality. We are going through a very serious climate change situation. Everyone has been looking very closely to what's happening in the Amazon as well as in the Pantanal. This brings the sense of urgency that Marita has just mentioned. We have a challenge in terms of transportation challenges, moving people. This is a sick person. It takes hours or days to get to the capital, Manaus. Communication logistics is very complex. This is a book from Francisco Bering from 1905, Telegraphic Communication in the Amazon Valley. And here we have a optic fiber river cable, which is not the reality of the state of Amazons. Broadband, it reaches only 18% of the state, an investment of 9 million reais, and still not bringing communication to the whole state. It's not being used. We use satellite band, which is extremely expensive. It's difficult because of the climate, because of the presence of clouds. We use the KU band, but within this infrastructure of satellites is how we are present in the whole state of the Amazon. And brings us an opportunity to organize infrastructure, qualified, skilled human resources, and open a innovation business portfolio, articulate biodiversity and productive spaces, and above all, to connect productive spaces and networks. Bavarino has just mentioned, Bia also mentioned, this is the scenario that concerns us. Natura bought 100 million community, 100 million reais in community products. This is large. That represents quality of life to the communities. The Simrise Amazon sells cosmetics with the Amazon brand. L'Oreal is Amazonian oil. So many L'Occitane au Brazil using the Amazon. Amazon sells Boticário and Natura products and has sold 106 billion reais, 106 billion in added value. It is in this context that we need to come in to educate people, to add value to products and production chains in our region, as well as a business platform that preserves the forest and improves income. We're talking about nutraceutic. cosmetics, aromatherapy, as well as enzymes, which is $1 billion market. And there are no industry in the region working with enzymes. Here is a situation of students that developed pirarucu-based ice cream. They are students from the technology program in food production at our university. International relations and geopolitics in Amazon. We depend on planning and decision. We can see at this point the risk, the climate risk for this region. Here is the river meeting between the Spree and the Negro River. And here is the meeting of the Van Hoven Institute with us and Julius Kahn Institute when we signed a partnership last year in September, precisely 1 year ago. So it is important to think about the traditional knowledge of the Amazon people. And this is their perspective. Every year, 5% of the enrollment are indigenous community students. We're talking about a very important partnership in uh, Indian communities that are so remote, untouched. These are the people we're talking about. We want them to have sheltered food and their lifestyle, and above all, not to lose life to COVID-19. We're talking about advancing research and teaching also to the indigenous populations and also learn with them. And then the fifth Brazilian technology revolution will be the Amazon. This has been said since the 1970s. And we're talking about also, it's hard to believe that the state and the federal universities don't have clear links to cooperatives with clear goals. We have to have common curricula, which is the idea of the rainforest business too, and obviously more relations, closer relations between students and teachers, so that people can relate to the Amazon in a consistent way, but obviously based on science. We need to educate people to work in banks, agencies, fostering agencies. So this is the idea behind Rainforest Social Business School, to have people to think the Amazon chain production, obviously people from the region. We're talking about international scientific cooperation, national cooperation, lots to sense of education strategies. We are going to open on the 23rd of October enrollment for the post-graduations for the Rainforest Social Business School, and that the same date on the 23rd, the site is going to be online, and we are going to have a number of programs available. There is a project preparation facility that is ready and operational. There is a parliamentary amendment. Terezinha Ruiz is a state congresswoman, has helped us in this. We have the development bank, we have the Amazon fund, we're thinking of endowments. And naturally, what is the perspective? It's collaboration, cooperation for a strategic plan for the Amazon in 2030. I thank the Green Rio 2020 to give us the opportunity of thinking the Amazon for 2030. This is our homework, and this is where we speak from. I'd like to thank you profoundly to talk about diversity, color, hope. We're not talking about fires and smoke. We're talking about color, hope. We want to be the sharks in the process. We don't want 100 million. We want 100 billion in scenario of adding value and in strengthening the quality of life of Amazon populations, preserving our forest, preserving life, fighting against the pandemic, to make sure that these people have survive and have shelter. They are struggling. They have been struggling for 500 years to keep alive. I invite you to visit us, to visit the university, and to get to know the Rainforest Social Business School. Thank you again. Thank you. Ronaldo. So inspiring. I believe that the university needs all possible support within Brazil. I believe we have taken the first steps and we can see the results of the team of the OEA. And I also respect the how integrated the science and technology uh, department, the Manaus free zone. I think you're all speaking, you're all on the same page. And I think this is going to just increase the impact of the Rainforest Business School. Now, I give the floor to Professor Carlos Nobre, who does not need introductions. Everybody knows him. We are together at the University of São Paulo at the a program at the Amazon 4.0. Thank you so much, Marita. Good morning and good afternoon to some of you. I will be speaking Portuguese. And I am going to be sharing my screen to very quickly share my presentation, which is complementary. The previous presentations were extremely interesting, both from Marita and Reinaldo. It's just a continuation on what we heard so far on the potential of this new way of looking into the future of a country like Brazil, a sustainable future with what I call, and you can use the name, the Amazon Green Deal. You can use this expression if you want. We are seeing the EU Green Deal, and in the United States, depending on the result of the elections, the US Green New Deal. So this is a global wave. So let's together build together the Amazon Green Deal. And I will first talk about the risks facing the Amazon and why we need this new circular bioeconomy of a standing forest. Thank you so much, Bia, for organizing this discussion. We need to be very careful so that we have a bioeconomy of a standing forest. A standing forest, another type of bioeconomy may lead to increase of deforestation in the Amazon. Let me start by saying that unfortunately, all the global economic systems in the last decades and centuries have never protected the nature. So the Amazon Green Deal is how to transform Brazil, all the Amazon countries, in having sustainable biodiversity, using sustainably the biodiversity. Indigenous populations have known this for centuries, and modern science have just confirmed this. The forest only exists because it exists. Evolution for tens and millions of years has made the forests very efficient recycling resources. Previously, we didn't see why the forest exists in such a poor soil. 1 hectare of Amazon forest has the same species and just the whole of Europe. In the United States, 5%. In Germany, 30% until 2030. These are bioeconomies given the resources, wood, so many materials from wood. Our bioeconomy is not going to be the same as in the US and the European Union. It has to be based on biodiversity. Unfortunately, in the last 50 years, we have um, burnt, invaded, attacked the forest. I published a an article on the Science Review. The whole area in blue, number 6, if we deforestate, this whole area is going to turn into a savanna because the dry season would extend for a very long time. So we have a huge percentage already destroyed. So this risk has become a reality. This is no longer a theoretical estimate. This is something that may lead the Amazon to be 30% forest on the west side in Colombia and Peru around the Andes range, and the southeast is going to be a degraded savanna. And this is not a theoretical projection. Unfortunately, we are witnessing this before our eyes. I am mentioning a number of science studies, climate change events so much more intense, 2010, 15, 16, extreme drought. We used to have every 25 years related to the El Nino in the Pacific. Now we have one per decade. The worst is the dry season is 3-4 weeks longer in the south of the Amazon and deforested areas, even longer. So the trees are not removing carbon from the atmosphere. The mortality rate has gone up for all tropic humid climate species. And there is also the fauna that is changing and turning into more of a savanna fauna. So this was a 1990s theoretical study based on computer models. That's no longer the case. Now we're looking at, we say that the deforestation exceeds 20-25%. We go beyond the tipping point of no return. Can we avoid the point of no return? Is it possible to have a development without deforestation? And the previous panel has tackled this very well. The two models we know, the first Amazon Way, which is what we called, which is a very effective policy for protection. 47% of the Amazon forest is legally protected with indigenous land, still undergoing major threats: the pandemic, invasion for illegal mining, the risk of fires, occupation, illegal occupation of land. And the model from the 1970s is the forest was replaced by agriculture, livestock, deforestation for livestock, and so on. So this is the model that has dominated. We had some success in 2012, 2014 with a major drop in deforestation, but now we are going back to this model. So the question is, wouldn't there be an alternative, a third Amazon way? And this, so this is what we're looking for, restoring the forest in a circular economy of a standing forest. This is the Amazon 4.0 project. So I'm going to give you a comparison. These are official numbers from the Institute of Statistics and Geography. Number of professors, the from a professor from the University of Indiana, comparing the various products, acai nut, berry, Brazil nuts, and so on, compared to livestock activity. Acai berry, as mentioned in the previous panel, brings over $1 billion from this to the state of Amazon. They moving various social classes around. So 5 states, 6 states, 240,000 square kilometers in soya and meat, acai berry, cocoa, and Brazil nuts, 5.1 billion, 4.4 billion in agroforestry system using less or 4,000 square kilometers. Comparing 150 euros per hectare per year, 600 reais per hectare per year compared to 12,000 hectares per euros per hectare per years. I mean, it's clear that the 50 years destroying the forest doesn't bring any economic value. It doesn't even make an economic sense, let alone environmental destruction. 800,000 kilometers of deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon. One can recover 60% of biodiversity and 70, 80% of carbon if there is a good conduction and there is a great deal of research on this. So we saw in the previous panel the search for these answers, how to develop this new bioeconomy of a standing forest with economic potential, but we need to scale it, industrialize it. There will be discussion with Tatiana, with Sergio Leitão. It's very important to have industrialization. We have over 4,000 small hamlets, indigenous villages and localities. So it has to be disseminated. So this is the Amazonia 4.0 project, adding value. Cleynaldo Rector showed that 1,000 factor, 100 million reais and 100 billion reais. Thank you so much, Rector Cleynaldo. I'm going to use this information a lot. For the acai berry, you multiply it by 20 if industrialized instead of just selling the raw berry. I'm sorry, I need to interrupt you. So this is a virtuous circle between the modern tools of the Amazon 4.0 and anyway, I don't have time to go into details. I'm just going to briefly going to show strategies to overcome these challenges and bring industrialization to the Amazon. Two, you have heard about the business school. I'm now going to speak about the creative labs in the Amazon. These are mini bio industries to educate populations, university students. We have talked about cacao, cupuaçu, Brazil nut, the huge potential, future potential. And now we are building the oils, gourmet cooking oils with the various professors from different organizations. And we're now building, we're going to complete in February the first lab with a number of partnerships. It is a modern bio factory with cacao for chocolate, all 4.0 technologies, PV energy, drone transportation of value-added products. So this is the project that we're going to be completing until February, and we are going to take them down to the communities, to the Women's Association, Moju Muri, Arapiuns Tapajós, Resex, and by the end of next year, partnership with the Rainforest Business School and the University of the State of the Amazon So these are field labs for the rainforest business schools. I'm just going to conclude by asking some questions. What is the real advantage of a country? The first panel tackle this topic, but this is more in general terms. What is the advantage of countries, Amazonian countries, in terms of biodiversity in the scenario of nations producing commodities for the industrialized world? Professor Marita showed Guaraná, açaí, berry. Alemania is a super industrialized country, highly developed. And that development has a lot to do with industrialization. So we need to we should copy a model that has been successful in other countries. Are we going to keep existing as a commodity supplier? This is a conversation, an answer that all Brazilians need to have. So these are what I've shown here is the answers to all these questions, how we're going to build this new economy, how the Amazon countries can be global leaders in a bioeconomy, biodiversity-driven bioeconomy. The potential is huge, and we need to become environmental powers and this social biodiversity. How to transform is by creating this new circular bioeconomy that is innovative, with protected forests, with healthy rivers, generating, including jobs, well-being, protecting biodiversity, and fighting climate change. We need to connect scientific knowledge with traditional knowledge, with the involvement of the scientific community, which is very important. Is this a dream? No. This is a realistic idealism. Together with innovation, we have full potential to develop this new model of economy. And I will wrap up here, using this word that has inspired from Professor Berta Berger, who left us a few years ago, to add value to the heart of the forest. And Davi Kopenawa, when he said in Harvard event, saving the heart of Mother Earth. The Amazon is the biological heart of our planet. Thank you very much. Duncan Chen in German, he says. Thank you so much. I am representing, I think everyone who's listening, watching you, we lack words to repeat or to summarize your message. Your message has been very touching and clear. Thomas Bardal is the next one. Is he here for the next presentation? Good morning to some of you. Good afternoon to the others. We would like to hear your presentation that has a lot to do with value chains and how to have value chains that do not have their base on deforestation. I can confirm, at least, especially in Europe, this is in high demand, to get to know, to track where products are coming from, where the product has been produced, and what's the story behind that land. Thomas Bardal.
Your presentation on how to ensure deforestation-free supply chain.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Marita, and thank you, Maria. Bom dia a todos, and I think there's the presentation somewhere on your side, so if you could please start it. Thank you for your interest and for letting me being part of this panel. Of Green Rio with such esteemed colleagues, and especially on a day with when the UN World Food Programme has just been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. I think this is a very good sign. So let's directly dive into the topic, and please show us the next slide. When we are talking about global forests, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Próxima, por favor. When we are talking about global forests, we are talking about 4 billion hectares of forests that are under national sovereignty and have a fundamental role in the lives of all people worldwide. The facts around forests' multifunctionality are commonly well known. At the same time, global deforestation is continuing at alarmingly high rates. This map you can see here was produced in 2008, so it's quite old. By simply attributing deforestation to country areas, this is what the map is doing, it falls short when we are talking about the underlying causes of deforestation. That is demand for food, feed, bioenergy, timber, and other raw materials resulting from the demand of a growing world population and changes in diets.
Próximo. Tem problema.
We seem to have a problem.
Mr. Baldauf, we cannot hear you.
A conexão do palestrante é que caiu, tá?
I'm afraid the panelist was disconnected. Let's hope he's in the waiting room now, waiting to be connected again. He's had a problem with his connection.
Marita, talvez seja melhor enquanto ele se demorar.
Perhaps if it takes time, it would be better for another panelist to start. Well, I also thought that we could perhaps do that so that.
Sorry, I'm having technical problems as some of us in Germany are having. I think I'm very sorry. So I won't use the video. Perhaps this works better, but you can still hear me, right?
Yeah, and can you still walk us through your presentation? No.
Yes, I can see the presentation. I think we will manage it. I'm so sorry for this inconvenience.
All right, so now we are on the next slide of global deforestation versus supply chains. That's where it had stopped.
Okay, so following instead the supply chains approach, this means that, for example, products imported into the EU hold a deforestation footprint that currently equals about 7 to 10% of global deforestation. In turn, consumption in the EU has an important role to play in reducing global deforestation. This is what we saw on the backing slide. We saw those lines that has been produced. No, still one back, please. That was produced for the EU in 2018 and showing major trade flows for 4 relevant commodities. Looking at the export, what we see here of soybean oil cake from Brazil to an export patch, we see that the Netherlands, France, and Germany were by far the 3 main EU importers. With this at hand, the last year EU started a formal process that will engage in sustainable consumption patterns in the EU and embodied deforestation in agricultural products. Currently, we are awaiting a legislative proposal by the European Commission in this regard. Next slide, please. Germany has been very actively involved in the promotion of deforestation-free supply chains for many years at national, European, and international level. I would like to outline these activities by two examples. First, our federal government guidelines on the promotion of deforestation-free supply chains of agricultural commodities. And at this stage, I'm really sorry for this really long title, but this seems to be a German habit. On the next slide, please. In the formal EU process, the EU Commission called for national implementation strategies and action plans. This call formed the basis for drawing up these guidelines. In April this year, our cabinet adopted the guidelines with a motivation to further take on responsibility. Thus, the German guidelines aim to achieve one fundamental objective. We want to contribute to forest conservation by eliminating deforestation from products and imports into Germany. Next slide, please. We want to address this objective by 7 goals you see here. And one of these goals, which is especially relevant for today's session, reads, it's number 3, deepening the participatory dialogue with production countries and supporting deforestation-free supply chains in agricultural products. In this respect, we want to intensify the bilateral and multilateral cooperation. Next slide, please. How do we want to put these guidelines into action? We established a national multi-stakeholder platform where the private sector, scientists, and civil society can participate and contribute to the implementation of the guidelines and their monitoring. The platform is also intended to foster exchange and consultation between the national and European levels. And we want to intensify the exchange with important producer and consumer countries, with existing and new policy dialogues at the level of bilateral and multilateral cooperation. Next slide, please. As a second example, I want to show you the Amsterdam Declarations Partnership. This is an example for this intensification I was just talking about. And I would like to outline the work of the Amsterdam Declarations Partnership. Next slide, please. In 2015, 7 European countries formed the Amsterdam Declarations Partnership to foster sustainable supply chains to our countries. The group represents about 70 to 75% of EU imports of relevant commodities. Since then, there have been numerous activities within Europe and some with other major consumer and producer countries. Next slide, please. As the latest example for such activities, the partnership reached out to Brazil to intensify the dialogue with actors along the whole agricultural commodity supply chain. This goes back to the very positive experiences with the cooperation between Brazil and the European countries in the last decade. In our perception, this dialogue would identify ways and facilitate on how to reach sustainable and deforestation-free agro-commodity supply chains and long-term demand for sustainably produced goods. With this, I hope I could outline our thinking around deforestation-free supply chains and the envisaged dialogues. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much. A very interesting case of how to use trade rules and leverage to give a great advantage to deforestation-free products. I hope, Bea, you get to your table in future also the US and China. It would be fantastic if more large consumer markets in the world would rally around examples like this. Because the time is so short, I just want to thank you, Dr. Baldauf, and say this was very inspiring, and sort of move on to another speaker who has been one of the early innovators in Amazonia, Virgilio Viana. And Virgilio, not just because of the Fundação Amazônia Sustentável, but also because you have a little rainforest, a Thomas Lovejoy Rainforest Business School in there. Since we just spoke about the Rainforest Business School before, this rainforest learning campus, which you have built, is of special interest. But I'm sure you will talk more broadly about your activities. Over to you, Virgilio.
Well, thank you so much, Dia and Marita, for the invitation. A wonderful panel, Dia, and a wonderful event. And thanks, Marita, for your moderation and introduction. Eu comecei em inglês, mas agora me dei conta, era para ser em
I
português.
started in speaking in English, but I've only just realized. Well, thank you very much to all. I'm going to talk about the bioeconomy, and I'm going to mention a lot about what has already been mentioned. Professor Carlos, Cleinaldo, and Marita, and Thomas. Well, this an aerial view of the sustainable zone. We have two pieces of news. We are totally supplied with solar energy. This is something that we did this year. And now we are Fundação Amazônia Sustentável, no longer Fundação Amazônia Sustentável. Now here is a bit of our background. The reduction of clearing, this year there was an increase, and we, in terms of alerts, but and also the increasing number of family monthly income has gone up. And investments and results in terms of the bioeconomy in practical terms. So we have over 2,000 families that take part, and we've managed to increase the payment that's made to the producer to 980. Now, a manioc flour, we have certification, origin, an increase of what's paid to the producer. Now, guarana and essential oils. I'm not going to go into detail about these value chains, but these chains rather, but I'm just giving you an operational view. Now, I'm going to talk about something that I think is essential when we're talking about the bioeconomy. I think it needs to be mentioned in a way that will reflect its importance. This is a mandala with a systemic view, the systemic view that we have allowed to mature. And we have 8 axes: health, education, citizenship, empowerment, income generation, infrastructure, community infrastructure, management and transparency, research and development. Well, I think it's not enough to invest in the production chains, but we have to invest on this. This is the strategy that we call a people-based solutions for sustainable development. They're based on people, and this is only made possible through a chain of people. Now, networks. Now, this is the partnerships that we have, and now we have over 200 partners in 2019. Now, in fact, this number is about 400 partners. And this involves all these segments. I think that's another important message. We can only act on this systemic agenda with an ecosystem of institutions that are complementary in their skills. We have the OAS as a strategic partner in the area of teaching, research, and innovation. We have companies, multilateral organizations, and others. Now, this systemic view must come together with a theory of change. In our case, this view has 2 macro objectives. On the one side, the poverty reduction, extreme poverty, or rather eradication of extreme poverty. And the other thing is the standing forest and the ecosystem conservation. I'm not going to go into details, but that is present in our annual report. Now, what about this theory of change? We see that the organization and information are key. They have the greatest impact on the rest. Now I'm going to go into detail as regards people-based solutions for sustainable development. Now it starts right at first in the beginning of childhood. Then we have the formal education, and then secondary, and then third level or university or similar. And then it goes, we see education and citizen or vocational education. And this then leads to an training and process for the indigenous peoples, and the people who are going to produce the bioeconomy are indigenous people or local communities. If we must think of the people, the human base in terms of training. Now this is 0 to 6, what we call the first years of childhood, with when all the cognitive skills are, a lot of the cognitive development takes place. We have a tablet that is used by the community health agents to go on to homes on home visits. And this is the formal teaching area. We have a partnership with the Education Department, State Department, and these are the structures that we have, or facilities. We have 9 campi already in place for many years now. This is a view of one of them. We have a digital laboratory, garden, a fruit garden, solar energy, multi-use, multi-purpose laboratory. We have 9 of these, 2, well, with a lot of experience. One of these nucleuses where we have a course for local teachers. This is in partnership with the OAS. Now this is for 7 to 17 and is for training, teaching other skills and keeping, especially the teenagers in the communities. And this has to do with sustainable involvement or participation. Education also driven by the local training. Here you see that the entrepreneurs have a hub. This was launched in September, a green economy hub in the Amazon. We heard Professor Carlos talking about the Green New Deal. This is the Amazon Green Economy Hub. It is an inclusive hub in the Amazon region. It's part of a green economy coalition that is a founding aspect of the Green New Deal in Europe, and is also linked to other regions of the world. But we launched this in September in the Amazon region. It's based in Manaus, and it's a pleasure to share this information with you. Now, the reasoning is to make use of this pipeline, this project pipeline that we've been working on now for years, over 1,800 bioeconomy projects. We had another specific notice and for the selection of other projects. So we have an incubation and acceleration process for sustainable business. Now, linked to this strategy, there is a non-refundable funding mechanism with a reimbursable funding mechanism. Now, there's also a pipeline for research and development, and then we have the accelerators and different investments in terms of blending finance. That's what we have in place in order to make this get off the ground. The future of the bioeconomy in the Amazon will depend on people like this. Neolene, she's an entrepreneur, and she managed to change what she was doing based on continuous training. Now, when we talk about bioeconomy, the bioeconomy in the Amazon, it's essential to have this systematic approach and to strengthen leadership. This is an example of how we managed to adapt ourselves in the Amazon. Now, in terms of digital connectivity, we're building over 100 health centers across the Amazon region, so that these people can be trained and take part in mentorship, business mentorship. Now, I'd like to conclude this presentation by talking about the FAS mission, which is to contribute to sustainable development in the Amazon region by stressing the importance of the standing forest and biodiversity, and improvement of the quality of life in the communities that live along the rivers and indigenous villages, associated to the implementation of practical actions and the disseminating of knowledge and the focus on people. All this is part of a new form of institution. I also believe that we must talk about the need to strengthen Amazonian institutions. This has to occur independently from governments. Governments come and go, and I think it's important to strengthen the civil society institutions. Now, with this, I would like to thank you for the opportunity and give back the floor to Mari. Thank you. Thank you. It was excellent. I think that this idea of what is possible, what you did in about 15 years approximately, is incredible. And it inspires us. As Bia said, it is a reality. Now, this last idea of giving continuity to something is very important, of making something live on. We mustn't just have a vision up to 2030, but we must formulate a type of public-private institutional governance, NGOs, all who that can bring to bear a continuous action, not something that can be interrupted, as we have seen in the past. Sometimes things are well funded, but sometimes when government or circumstances change, well, I think that if we consider this new economy, we must also think about continuity in developing this new economy. Now I give the floor to Marcelo Bortolini. Yesterday, he gave us a very good presentation. I now give you the floor.
Good afternoon, Marita, Virgílio Viana, Thomas Baldar, Bia, who I'd like to thank on behalf of FINEP to be part of this incredibly well-qualified panel with people who know so much about the Amazon. As we have spoken before, Maria Beatriz, I share everything that has been said so far. The rational use of the Amazon, keeping the forest standing, adding value. There's so much value added. It's been so widely demonstrated, not just to protect the Amazon, but also to reduce social inequality and improve the quality of life of our people. The last member of the panel usually repeats what's been said before, but I am going to place my presentation here. It's very simple compared to everything else that has been presented, but anyway, I am now going to share my presentation with you. Can you see the presentation on the screen?
Sim, vou botar aqui no modo apresentação, então pronto.
Okay.
Bom, por que a Amazônia, né, para nós é
Why
algo tão
the
importante,
Amazon
ela é algo
is so
tão
important to
relevante,
us?
né? Ela é um país,
Why is it
o
so
Brasil é
relevant?
praticamente um país de dimensões continentais. Nós
Brazil
temos 6
is like a
biomas importantes, como nós
continent. We have
apresentamos
6
ontem.
important
Amazônia,
biomes:
Caatinga, Cerrado,
Amazon, the
Pampa,
Caatinga, the Cerrado, the
Pantanal
Pampa, the
e
Pantanal,
a Floresta Atlântica.
and the
Só a
rainforest, the Atlantic
Amazônia, né,
forest.
a
The
gente
Amazon
pode
itself,
dizer que ela
we
tem
can
500 milhões de hectares de
there are
florestas
500
naturais
million hectares
plantadas.
of natural and
A
planted
gente
forests.
tem uma
We
grandeza,
have
né, um potencial gigantesco.
an
Quando a gente olha aqui,
incredibly
mais de
large potential
330
when we look
milhões de hectares
over
de
300
floresta,
million hectares of
correspondendo aí a
forest areas,
97% só de florestas
97%
naturais
of
e
natural
menos de
forests,
3%
and
ali,
less
2%
than
de florestas
3%,
plantadas.
2% of
Por que a Amazônia
planted
é tão
forests.
importante?
Why
Porque cobre
is
quase que
the
metade do
Amazon so
território
important?
brasileiro.
Because it covers
Corresponde a
nearly half
5%
of
da
the Brazilian
superfície
territory. It's
terrestre.
5% of the
É a
planet's
maior
surface.
floresta
It
tropical do
is the
planeta.
largest tropical
Considerada a maior
rainforest in the
reserva de
world. It's considered the
biodiversidade
biggest
do mundo.
biological diversity
E
reserve in the
estima-se aí que
world.
possua
And it is
cerca de
estimated
metade
that it
de
holds
todas
at
as
least half of
espécies
all the
vivas do
living
planeta.
species
Desculpa se eu estiver
on
falando
the
alguma
planet.
bobagem aí, Carlos
I
Nobre e outros
apologize if
especialistas, mas
Carlos
isso é o que a
Nobre
gente
and
estuda,
other
né? A bacia
experts,
hidrográfica da
if I'm
Amazônia
saying
contém
any
81% de
nonsense,
toda a
the
água
Amazonic
superficial
hydrographic
do
basin
Brasil.
holds
Ou
81%
seja,
of
eu
superficial
acho que
water
o que é mais
availability
importante
of
e
the
que
country.
foi muito bem colocado
And
aí
what's
pelo
most
Pleinaldo,
important,
é um
and that
lugar
has
onde
been
vivem
well said
milhões
by
de brasileiros. Então, a
Pleinaldo,
gente tem que
a place
pensar
where
nesse
millions
povo que
of
vive
people
lá.
live. So we have to think of the
Se
people
nós formos
living there.
grandes, né,
So
em dimensões, somos também
if
grandes em
we're big
problemas.
in terms of size, we also have
Embora
big
seja uma das
problems.
regiões mais ricas do país e
Although
do
it's one
mundo,
of
em
the
termos de produtos que
richest
nós podemos
regions in
extrair de
terms
lá,
of
ela tem o pior
products that
índice
can
de
be
desenvolvimento
exploited
humano do
from there,
Brasil.
it's one of the
Falta
worst
acesso a condições
development
básicas de
index
vida,
in the world,
condições
no
de
access to
atendimento de
basic
saúde, água potável,
sanitation,
tratamento
health
de esgoto,
services,
energia
drinking
elétrica
water, sewage systems,
a ausência de
power, electric
dinamismo
power,
econômico, que é isso que nós estamos
and
tentando
there
tirar
is
lugar
a
aqui e
lack of
buscar, né? Como
economic
gerar
dynamism. This is
dinamismo
what we're trying to
econômico, como
do.
gerar renda
How to
na floresta
generate
em pé.
income at the forest, at the standing
E
forest.
como que nós podemos buscar
And how
resolver esse
can we
problema, hein?
solve this
Uma humilde
problem?
contribuição aqui, uma
This
só
is my humble
proteger a
contribution.
Amazônia,
How to
buscar o seu desenvolvimento
by
sustentável
protecting,
e por
seeking
meio da
sustainable
ciência, da
development
tecnologia e
and through
inovação,
science,
que aí eu puxo
technology,
a
and
sardinha
innovation.
para a área da
And then
FINEP, para a área
I
que nós
am
atuamos,
talking about
né?
the area
Então,
where we
dentro dessa
work.
ideia de que
Within this
proteger
idea
a
that
Amazônia,
protecting the
né, como foi
Amazon,
mostrado aí,
as
temos
it
problemas.
has
É difícil,
been shown, we have problems. It's
a
difficult.
movimentação, a
It's
comunicação,
difficult to
mas
move
nas
around.
últimas
It's
décadas,
difficult to
né, esse
communicate.
desmatamento
However,
tem
in
se
the last few
concentrado
decades,
num determinado arco de desmatamento,
deforestation
que ele
is
se estende lá do
concentrated
sul do
in
Pará, norte de
on
Mato
a
Grosso,
belt
Rondônia
south
e
of Pará,
sudeste do
north of
Acre.
Mato Grosso,
Grande
Rondônia,
parte desse
and
desmatamento
southeast of Acre.
é
A
seguido
lot
de
of the
queimada, tem
deforestation
ocorrido em
is
áreas
because of
legalmente
fires.
protegidas pela legislação florestal,
Legally
com áreas de preservação
protected
permanente,
areas
reserva
with
legal.
permanent
Nesse
protection,
contexto, né, o governo
legal
federal
reserves.
tem
In this
trabalhado buscando
sense, the federal government has been
combater
working,
esse tipo de
trying
coisa.
to fight this type
Exemplo
of
disso é a
activity.
Operação
One
Verde
example
Brasil
is
2, que
the
teve
Verde
início agora
Brasil
em maio
2
e que
operation,
tem sido
which
supervisionado pelo
started
próprio
in May and that
vice-presidente da
has been
República,
supervised
presidente do
by the
Conselho da
vice
Amazônia,
president,
nosso
the president of
vice-presidente
the
Hamilton
Amazon
Mourão,
board,
buscando atuar
Milton
para combater e
Mourão, vice
reprimir
president of
delitos
Brazil,
ambientais na
trying
Amazônia.
to
Então,
fight
pequeno extrato
illegal
do que
activity in
tem
the
sido
Amazon.
feito lá até agora,
So this is
foram
just an example of what
134
has been
mil
doing.
operações de apreensão,
134,000
fiscalização e combate a
operations of
incêndios,
seizures, inspections, and
integrando Forças Armadas, órgãos de
firefighting,
segurança federais e estaduais.
integrating the armed
Foram mais de
forces and
800
federal and state
800
bodies.
toneladas de minério
Over 800 tons
ilegal,
of
29 mil
ore,
metros cúbicos de madeira ilegal, mais de 800 navios,
9,000 cubic meters of illegal wood, more than 800 illegal ships, 176 tractors, 14 aircraft
uma luta
seized.
incessante contra
So,
350
relentless
incêndios na
fight
região. Mais de
again,
bilhão de reais
fighting
já
over
foram aplicados em
350 fires, over
multas.
1
Então,
billion
isso é o que
reais
está sendo
in
feito em termos de
fines.
proteção.
This is what's being
Em
done
termos
in
de
terms of
iniciativas
protection.
para desenvolvimento
As for
sustentável, foram
initiatives
apresentadas
for
várias
sustainable
aqui. Estou
development,
trazendo só mais
there
uma,
have been
que é
numbers
uma
of them have
iniciativa
been
do
mentioned here.
Ministério
This is
do
only
Meio
one
Ambiente,
more
que
from
desenvolveu o
the
programa Floresta
environmental
Mais.
agency
Esse
that
programa
developed
objetivo é
the
criar,
Floresta
fomentar e
Mais
consolidar
program. The
mercado de
objective is to
serviços
create and
ambientais,
consolidate
reconhecendo e valorizando as
environmental service
atividades
market,
ambientais
recognizing
realizadas e
and
incentivando a sua retribuição monetária e não
environmental
monetária em todos os biomas
activities,
brasileiros, mas em especial na Amazônia,
stressing
com
the
foco de
monetary and
atuação exclusiva
non-monetary
em áreas de
value
vegetação
with focus
nativa.
on native vegetation.
O Ministério do Meio Ambiente
The
pretende
environmental
arrecadar
ministry
recursos para a
intends to raise
promoção do
funds to
programa
promote
a
the
partir de
program
parcerias com
from
entidades
partnerships
públicas e
with
privadas,
public and
nacionais
private
e
entities,
internacionais.
both
E
at
o
national and
instrumento que está
international
sendo
ones.
pensado
And
nesse modelo
one
é o
instrument that
modelo
is
do
being
REID, né?
taught
A
under this
redução de
model is
emissões
the
por desmatamento e
reduction
degradação
of
florestal.
emissions
É um modelo reconhecido pelas
for,
Nações Unidas
because
e
of
baseado em doações e
deforestation
pagamentos por
recognized
resultado. É uma
by
das
the
principais fontes
UN
para a
and
captação
based
de
on
recursos
donations is
internacionais para
one
o
of the
desenvolvimento de
main
políticas públicas
fundraising means
nacionais
to
e
develop
subnacionais
national and
para o
subnational
combate ao
government
desmatamento.
policies to fight deforestation.
Bom, nesse contexto, a
So
FINEP
within the
atua,
context,
né, e
FINEP has
tenta
been working
participar do
and has
desenvolvimento
been trying
científico e
to
tecnológico,
participate
que
in
esse é
technology and
o
science
viés da nossa
development.
atuação.
And this
Então,
is
para quem
where we
por
actually
acaso
work.
não conhece, acho que
So
todo mundo
for
conhece, mas
those who
a
actually
FINEP
don't
é
know
uma
about
empresa
it,
pública vinculada ao Ministério de Ciência,
FINEP is
Tecnologia e
a
Inovações,
government
criado em 1997. O
body
seu
under the
objetivo
Ministry
é
of Science and
operar
Technology. Was created in
em toda a cadeia de
1967. The objective is
inovação,
to operate throughout the innovation
buscando, né,
chain with
estratégias,
a focus on
estruturando e
strategic
ações de
structuring and
impacto para
impact actions
desenvolvimento
for
sustentável do
sustainable
Brasil.
development of
Então, nós
Brazil.
atuamos em todos
So we
os
work
níveis,
in
desde o
all
nível da
levels,
infraestrutura de
from
pesquisa,
infrastructure, in terms of research
suportando,
infrastructure,
apoiando projetos de pesquisa,
supporting research
apoiando o
projects,
empreendedorismo inovador, apoiando
entrepreneurial
as pequenas
innovation,
empresas, micro, pequenas empresas e até
small
empresas
size
de maior porte
companies and
através
larger companies
do crédito. Temos
by
diversos
providing
programas,
credit to
isso
them. We
lá no
have a
nosso
number
site
of
todo mundo pode
programs. You can see this
verificar.
on our site. You can check
Só na
this on
parte
our
de infraestrutura,
website.
por exemplo,
Just for
todas as instituições
this,
que atuam na região amazônica já receberam algum tipo de
these
apoio, de
are
suporte
the institutions that have
da FINEP.
received some
Vou
kind
dar
of
alguns
support from
exemplos, né?
FINEP.
A
Here are some
Universidade Federal
examples.
do Acre
The Acre
teve aqui
Federal University.
toda uma estrutura de
Here is
multiblocos com laboratórios, greenhouse,
multifunctional block
e
with
aquisições de
laboratories,
equipamentos.
greenhouse, and
O
acquisition of
Instituto
research
do
equipment.
Amapá também
The Amapá
uma estrutura
Institute
para
is
pesquisas na
also
área
a
geológica e
structure
mineral.
for
O Centro
geology
de
and mineral
Medicina Tropical
research.
da Fiocruz
Tropic
também
Medicine
recebeu
Research Center
recursos
from
com
Fiocruz
apoio
has
para equipamentos.
received resources
Dos
for
nossos
buying
marcos é a
equipment.
Torre
One
Ato,
of
né,
our
que é
marks
uma
is
torre de
the Torre
325
Ato,
metros de
325
altitude, de
meters
altura,
of
para monitoramento de todo
for
o
monitoring
ambiente amazônico, do
the
clima amazônico. E isso
climate
foi
in the
desenvolvido numa
Amazon.
parceria
And this
entre
was
os
developed
governos
through a
brasileiro
partnership
e
between the
alemão.
Brazilian and the German governments.
Estamos aqui também junto
Here,
com o
we
INPA,
are
junto com a Universidade Federal do Amazonas,
the
junto com a
Federal
Fundação
University of State of
Universidade Federal de
Amazonas,
Rondônia, com a
the
Federal
Federal
do
University of
Pará,
Rondônia,
na rede
Federal
de
University
hidrologia
of
da Amazônia,
Pará, and
para o
the
monitoramento e caracterização desses modelos
Riverway
de sistemas
network in
aquáticos
Amazon
fluviais da região
for
amazônica.
hydrology networks in the Amazon
Também
region.
Apoiamos Instituto de Desenvolvimento
also
Sustentável
support
Mamirauá, nas pesquisas que lá são
the Mariuawa
desenvolvidas em toda a região
Sustainable Development
Médio
Institute
Solimões.
in the region of the
Apoio
Solomons.
à infraestrutura de laboratórios
Support to
de
laboratory
diversas
infrastructure
características lá no Instituto Mamirauá,
in
laboratório aquático
Mamirawa
de
Institute,
mamíferos aquáticos, laboratório de
Aquatic
pesca,
Mammal Laboratory, Fish
laboratório de
Laboratory,
comportamento dos
behavior
peixes,
laboratory,
laboratório do ambiente e da qualidade da água.
Laboratory of Water Quality and the Environment.
Junto à Embrapa e à FAPEAN, também atuamos já em projetos de consolidação científica e tecnológica para sistemas
scientific and
sustentáveis,
technological
de
consolidation
desenvolvimento
project
sustentável
for sustainable
da
development
agricultura
projects
familiar.
for family agriculture.
Projeto que
Also,
foi
a project
submetido à FINEP para
that was
investimento nosso,
submitted to
nós
FINEP
chegamos
for our
até a
financing,
selecioná-lo, mas
and
acabou ele não
we
sendo
selected
investido,
it, but
porque
at the end of the
surgiram
day,
outros
it actually
investidores
was
mais
not financed
interessados
because
e
other
a
investors were
empresa
more
partiu para
interested, and then the
para
company
outros
ended up
caminhos,
using more
mas
other
projeto
resources.
da Trivia que
But
era
this
para
is a
fazer
trivia
monitoramento
project
florestal
to
utilizando machine
monitor
learning, utilizando plataformas de
forestry
IoT.
using
Então, foi
machine
projeto
learning and
bastante
the
interessante
Internet
também,
of Things.
né?
So this was also a very
Mais
interesting project.
recentemente, esse ano,
More
por
recently,
conta de
this
toda
year,
a pandemia da
because of
Covid-19,
the
nós estamos apoiando uma
pandemic,
rede de
we
laboratórios
are
de pesquisa
supporting
das
a
universidades em todo o
research
Brasil,
lab
juntamente
network
com a Fiocruz,
with
né, o que nós
universities
chamamos de
all around
laboratórios de
Brazil,
campanha,
together with
para
Fiocruz,
que essas
field
universidades
labs,
possam
as we call
apoiar
them, so that these universities
no
can
diagnóstico do Covid.
give
Então,
support
a
in
Fiocruz fornece os
COVID-19
kits de
diagnosis.
diagnóstico e são
So
as universidades
Fiocruz
que realizam os
provides
testes de
the diagnosis
diagnóstico
kits, and the universities
do
carry out
coronavírus.
the
E lá
diagnosis
estamos
for
trabalhando com a
COVID-19.
Fiocruz e
And
com
we're
a
working
Universidade
together with
Federal do Amazonas.
Fiocruz as well as with the Federal
Também
University of the
aproveitando,
State of
né,
Amazon.
aproveitando ou combatendo a Covid-19, né, aproveitando o
In the fight
momento
against
de
COVID-19,
necessidade, nós
taking
colocamos
the
recursos
opportunity that there
para
is this
apoiar
major
17
need,
laboratórios
we are supporting
de
17
14
labs
instituições
of
de pesquisa
14
espalhadas no
research
Brasil,
organizations
dentre
in
elas
Brazil,
o
among
INPA
them
e o Instituto Evandro
the
Chagas, para
INPA and
aumentar o
Evandro
nível de
Chagas
biossegurança dos
Institute
laboratórios,
to
para chegar ao
increase
nível de segurança
biosecurity levels
NB3.
of labs to reach NB3 security levels.
Sim.
Marcelo, 2 minutes.
Sim. Esse é
You
o
have
nosso
2 minutes.
último slide, né? Só para
So
reafirmar
this is my
o
last
compromisso que a
slide.
FINEP
Just to
é a
reaffirm
Agência
the
Brasileira de
commitment,
Inovação.
FINEP is
A FINEP
the
já
Innovation
apoiou,
Brazilian
a FINEP
Agency,
apoia e a
has
FINEP está de
supported,
portas abertas para
still supports,
debater,
and it
buscar
has
soluções para o
open doors
desenvolvimento
for
sustentável da
debate
Amazônia,
and to
mantendo
find
a floresta
solutions
de
for
pé.
sustainable
E
development
aí,
of
seguindo
the
as palavras
Amazon,
do nosso
keeping
ministro
the
Marcos
forest a
Pontes, né?
standing
Gerando
one,
conhecimento,
and
gerando
to
renda e
generate
melhorando a qualidade de
knowledge,
vida dos
income, and
brasileiros.
improving
Esse é o nosso
the
objetivo.
quality of
A
life
nossa palestra
of
aqui era bem
Brazilians,
sucinta,
as was
a
said
gente tentou
previously.
ser bem simples,
This was
mas
only a
esse é o nosso
summary
objetivo. Estamos de
presentation.
portas
This
abertas,
is our
prontos para
objective. We
colaborar
have
aí com
open
tantas
doors,
outras
ready
iniciativas
to
que vimos aqui
collaborate
nesse
with
painel.
other
Muito
initiatives
obrigado,
that we
Beatriz, pela
have seen in
oportunidade de
this
participar.
panel.
Obrigado,
Thank you
Marita.
so much,
Bom dia a
Bia.
todos.
Big thank you so much, Marina. I wish you all a very nice day.
Realmente, todos esses exemplos concretos de pesquisa e desenvolvimento, isso foi excelente ver o que tem lá. Eu acho essa parte do apoio da FINEP.
I think that the support of FINEP to research and development was one of the most
convincing topics instead of this environmental services to the market, because that is a lot more complicated to check, to follow up, and to hedge. This international system developed by the United Nations is not considered to have been successful. It is being financed by government resources, and it was designed to use private resources.
So it was small and it was slightly below expectations, the financial expectations from the source from RED. So congratulations, especially regarding support to science and development of new products. Congratulations to you at FINEP, and I hope that the bioeconomics of the forest may count on more support from now on. And with that, I thank all listeners, and I give the floor to Bia.